Class Teaching. Your own mind is God, the only God you will ever know or have. You will never need to go farther away to find God than your own mind. The intelligence of your own mind is the only man you will ever be. God and man, mind and intelligence, go on together in unity as one being, forever. One verity, God, the one infinite manifestation. Deity, I am that I am. I am, being mind, intelligence. Being, cause, effect, God, good. Section 1. Christian Science is a science. Science is unalterable truth. Thinking must be truth. One science, God. God, impersonal, unalterable, changeless truth. God, truth. All true thoughts. Everything good, useful, or natural is a thought formed by God in our own mind, always within. Thoughts and things are one and the same thing. The fault is in the way we see and know things. A problem, wrong thoughts about a right thing. A personal mind, when correctly understood, is found to be divine mind. God is our own mind. God and man are one being. One's own mind is God, the only God you will ever know or have. Human thinking, when right and good, is divine thinking, when good and useful and natural and true, appearing through the mists of mortal mind. The better our thinking, the more God appears. Thinking true thoughts is living. Mortal mind is ignorance. Cease to believe our mind is a lesser mind than God. Demonstration is mind present. In order to demonstrate any good thing, we don't create through treatment or prayer. Mind is finished. I am not a creator. Treatment or prayer helps you to see them as they are. Man is always the good that God is. Through right thinking and right living, I think and act as if I were what I am, even the same good that God is. Good is not outside our own mind. Any degree of understanding is potentially all, as the acorn is all of an oak. Section 2. A. Necessity of spiritualization of thought. B. Individualization of divine science. Ignorance referred to as a veil or cloud in the Bible. To thin the cloud or mist through spiritualization, true thought or understanding appears by degrees. Each degree swallows up ignorance. To individualize truth, each individual becomes actively and consciously that truth. There are exact rules in our textbook to show us how to individualize truth. Rules on each page. It is necessary to work by rule. Rule is a determined method of thought prescribed that will direct one's thinking in accord with a science. Every value or fact we will ever know is in mind. Spiritual facts are tangible and invariable. Section 3. Rules. Science and Health, page 149 and 123. 3 steps. This rule is basic. Matter is a wrong thought. Matter is a mental state. Matter is a misstatement about some thought form, about a right thing. When I see matter, I see a right thing in the wrong way. Matter is an illusion in my mind. When I exclude matter, I exclude from my thinking my mistaken sense about body and things. Water on the highway, not there. We do not get rid of our bodies or heal them or save them. We learn to see and know things as they are in truth. Resolve things into thoughts, one kind of thought. Replace the objects of sense with spiritual ideas. Page 208 and 123. A problem is mental, in our own mind. A mental conflict between truth and error. Knowing the truth includes living the truth. We are not required to correct and save the world. Our world is in us. All men are saved as God is saved, not material, but spiritual. The yoke is easy and the burden light. The seed is in itself. The power to be and to do is in mind, subjective. Class instruction: to teach one how to apply the truth and how to present this truth to others. Manual, page 86, The Teachers of Primary Class. Recapitulation only. 2. What mind is conscious of as himself, man is that. Man is mind's idea or awareness of himself. Man is the mental, spiritual isness of mind. Body. The word body means being. What mind is consciously being, that is body. Body is always the expression of mind. Therefore, man or intelligence, the body of mind. Mind and body are one and inseparable. So-called mortal mind and body is but an erroneous concept of mind and body, and is a myth. Whatever is possible to God is possible to man. Our vision is an exact science. Our vision is the absolute truth. Where there is no vision, they perish. Faith necessary. Conviction in an absolute truth. Whatever is humanly possible is temporary, eternal means, while spiritualizing our thought. Every problem has a solution, and we are ready to rise to the solution, or we wouldn't have the problem. Oneness. To establish a correct scientific sense of God, oneness, man as one being. Man's relation to God is oneness or unity. Man looks out from mind, God, not up to God. It is false theology to think God, spirit, and man, universe, matter. Nothing is true of man that is not true of God. Sun and all its rays. All men are individual and spiritual. It is more important to know that I am not a personality, but an individuality, than to know there is no disease or lack. Man does not have all mind as God has, but is all God as mind is. We are both noumenon and phenomenon, God and man, one being. Man is never God. Wherever man is, there is a noumenon and phenomenon. All thought constitutes God or mind, and is unfolded out in expression. Science and Health, page 502. This I am is conscious identity, light emitting itself as light, strength emitting itself as strength. Cause and effect. Effect depends on cause. There is no place where God ends and man begins. God, mind, is known by his manifestation, intelligence, or man. There is nothing but God. We will ever know God only as we know each other. Recapitulation. Summary or concise statement. This chapter, absolute truth set out. Great importance in understanding the synonyms, characteristics, or qualities. Every good thing, viewed correctly, is some concrete evidence of God. God as whole, or unity of good, as being self-conscious. God being what he is to himself. God disclosed to himself as all that he is, and that is manifestation, or man. What a stupendous idea, man, he is to himself. To demonstrate Christian Science, we must have a spiritual sense of God. 7 Spirits of God, Revelation 4. Open 7 seals of error, Revelation 5. Spirit doesn't have same office as mind. Each synonym has a marked difference of meaning. God, mind, convey true character to man, to human mind. Body, being, or effect. Man is body, or mind. Man does not have a body. Always mental, spiritual intelligence. Man is incorporeal as mind. We don't have the idea all power. We are the all power. Capacity, ability, and efficiency. Nothing is outside or external to consciousness. All this infinitude is making up consciousness. Nothing can stop or hinder what God is. God or mind not possessed by man, God self-sufficient, God self-sustained, God self-supported, God self-understood. All creation never material, always wholly mental and spiritual. Mind, expressed as man, is all there is to the universe. Each idea is an infinite idea. Creation always appears first as matter, things, finite sense, and bounded. Reality appears thus because of the mist. All so-called material things are mental, held in one's own mind. Then spiritual ideas, but all the time the one good reality. Every existing good and useful thing in the universe is a spiritual fact. We see them differently as we spiritualize our thought, not healing or restoring, but see them as they are in their true depict. Matter is a mistaken sense about some spiritual fact or value that is in this very place. When I see matter, I am seeing a spiritual fact in reversion. Anything I have or know humanly, I have because it exists at hand divinely, right here. Keep your vision. We never destroy any material thing. Never destruction, always harmless, always true perception. Serpent to be proved harmless, not destroyed. Take your young child down into Egypt and keep it there until it grows up, Mrs. Eddy said. This new understanding of what God is, protect it. Don't discuss it promiscuously. Section 3. God, good, mind, spirit, soul. Everything in man's consciousness has its identity and reality in divine mind, God, good. Coincidence, human is divine, not just a happen so. Always the reality appearing through the mist, always subjective. The coincidence is always unfolded out into existence. Coincidence means the same thing at the same time, at the same place. Man, consciousness, cannot fail because God or good cannot fail. Always remains the same. Right here is good, consciously, omnipresent. Don't try to outline reality. How vast is mind? How vast is man? How vast is body? Spirit, substance. Substance, not matter. Science and Health, page 93. Spirit is a proper noun, not without form, as everything has its form, but without material accompaniments, as density, solidity, bounded or limited. Spirit, the substance of all things that exist right now. Earth is the same substance as heaven. Matter is never substantive. Anything that fills space is something mind or spirit is being. We do not at once see perfectly the actual thing, but we are seeing it more clearly all the time. we see our highest human concept of reality at hand. Our human concept, always the actual divine fact, appearing. Never believe anything other than the divine fact, right there appearing the best you can know it. I is the truth of everybody. I am come that they might have life, and have it more abundantly. John 10. Human concept is the divine idea and nothing else. Always the divine coincidence. We will always have a better sense of our world, a change from glory unto glory, until we attain reality. In science, we admit only the divine fact to be at hand. Accept no caricature drawn by mortal mind. A problem is a misconception of a reality at hand. Planes. 1. Matter accompaniment. 2. Human concept without matter accompaniment. 3. Spiritual consciousness. Soul, God. Soul, body, true sense of body. An idea of the true relation between soul and body. Unless we have a proper sense of this relation, we never can overcome sin, disease, and death. Soul to itself is the one conscious power, and animus to unfold itself out into body. Belief of a soul of our own, this is the root of animal magnetism, false religions, and MDs all working to save souls. This belief, worst of superstitions. Soul is God, one infinite one. The sun sends itself forth in many rays, but not many suns. Each ray possesses all the qualities of the sun. Before the revelation of Christian Science, no one ever dreamed the body and soul he now has is the manifestation of the one soul, or mind. Christian Science is the only religion that teaches one soul and one body. Body, purely mental and spiritual. We need to enlarge and spiritualize our sense of body. Our sense is all that is wrong. Soul or mind can only be known through its manifestation, body. Man does not have body. Man is body. Man is both the one mind and body, the noumenon and phenomenon. Everything that constitutes body is spiritual. The 7 synonyms give to itself body. Each individual does not have a body. Each individual is body. The fact about body constitutes a treatment. Man, the embodiment of all right ideas. The first truth or principle we need to understand is the coincidence that exists between the human and the divine. Is the same thing, at the same place, at the same time. A true humanhood, visible according to our comprehension. This body here was never born and will never die. Always remember the coincidence between the divine and the human. One has only to turn from false sense to see body as consciousness. The human, feminine, and masculine qualities are the very life of the divine. All function is the divine mind functioning. It is mind that hears, sees, feels, tastes, and smells. The human 5 senses are the divine. They cannot fail. Because God is all-knowing, all-seeing, all-hearing, etc., subjectively unfolded out in the best we can see it. As more of God's thoughts are unfolded out in our experience, we have the true humanhood. Mrs. Eddy speaks of the divine fact more perfectly understood, may appear as an improved belief, but it is our present world inside our consciousness. Must not think of body as material and want to get rid of it. We want to see our bodies as they are. My humanhood, when correctly viewed, is the presence of God. Anything we are conscious of as good and useful, we do not get rid of. Humanhood, Unity of Good, page 49. Quote, "The more I understand true humanhood, the more I see it to be sinless, as ignorant of sin as is the perfect Maker." End quote. Section 4. We do not spiritualize man or the organs of the body or anything, but we spiritualize our thoughts about man and things. Things are not what they seem. They are figures of the true. If our faith were more simple, we would see them as they are, expressions of the divine in forms that we call matter. It is possible for us to see and feel only the contents of our own mind. Neither you nor I are living life, but conscious life is living eternally as you and as I. Creation, Science and Health, page 262. Primary and secondary qualities. Light emits light. Elements and qualities comprised in mind, unfolded out in their identities. God, good, mind. Consciousness. Man, body, identity. You and I. Action emits action. Health emits health. Strength emits strength. Vigor emits vigor. Substance emits substance. Immortality begets immortality. All in all. Quote, "Martha, we have to know each other forever." End quote. Mrs. Eddy. Beginning means God revealed himself. God is my mind. Whatever is in my body is as God is. My mind is. Vast difference between what is and what we believe. Jesus expressed true humanhood at the time of the Ascension. Mind and body are one being. What the primary elements are consciously being, that is body, emanating forth from the divine mind. Just one body, and the one body is everybody's body. No matter what our present state of humanhood seems to be, we must give it its true value. We must think and act as if we were what we are. What appears as improvement or improved belief is the divine fact more clearly understood. Present humanhood, not mortal. The I am right here, unfolded out in its true expressions. Everything must have body, expression, concrete expression. Mind, always manifesting body. My human health or experience identified God. My present health subjectively as God, sameness or oneness. Mind maintains its own identities. Identity appears first, a true humanhood, then a real thing. God can't be separated from his identity. Body is essential. Reflection. Image always gives back to me just what I am. A reflection always receives. A reflection always gives back in a mirror. The mirror receives everything of you and gives back what you are. The body I have now must be the real body. My present state of mind must be corrected in my present concept. Always begin with my mind, never body. It must correct itself if it sees anything wrong. I do this correcting by knowing what mind is. God. Science and Health, page 400. I do everything to my body with my mind. Mind governs my present body. The body I have now is God's body, and I will always have a body, God's body. The actual active qualities that comprise God are our body. If we believe our present bodies are mortal and material, we will come under decadence and death. Principle and love, same meaning. Principle, that from which all things proceed, from which everything is the outcome. Each one of us proceeds from divine principle, love. God loves as the sun shines. The truth about everyone and everything is love. Love is infinite. No condemnation. Be tolerant. The realization that love is infinite heals. Life. Retrospection, page 59. Life is a term eternally conscious, always consciously living as all the qualities of good. As natural for life to live as for sun to shine. Nothing can become unconscious or die. Conscious action is unfolded out into particular action called bowels or heart. Life or constant action is the substance of all things. Action is. Don't try to bring it into experience. Conscious life living, not of itself, but the one infinite life. No inaction, overaction, or diseased action. Life, Conscious action never varies. All things are eternal. Then conscious eternity is here now. The life I now live in the flesh is that eternal life living as me. Any infinitesimal life is that eternal life. That which has ever lived has never died, but is living eternally. The life I live now is eternal life. Conscious life is living as you and me. Life is never young nor old, always at maturity. Prove our highest conception of man as living rather than dead. Mind, love couldn't operate in a reverted sense, as a reversion of truth. Death is an illusion. No person will ever be any more conscious of death than of birth. Death is not in the victim we say has died, but in us. All phenomena are in us. Our verdict of death in our friends does not change them one iota. Jesus was the same after death as before. If the senses lie about life, they also lie about death. We must lift ourselves above the evidence of the senses. Section 5. Good. Consciousness, identity, body, man. Good lung, good stomach, good hand, good blood, good loaves, good flesh. Mrs. Eddy's favorite passages, Science and Health, page 368 and 369. We will have our true humanhood until we have our ascension. Truth is God. God as entity is truth in totality. Truth in the unseen or invisible is God. Truth in the seen or visible is Christ. It makes no difference how I see things humanly. There is nothing. There is but truth. The disclosure of truth is infinite. Truth not brought about by someone thinking truth. Truth is that which is God. Each one of us can say, I am the truth. Truth comes to us to show us ourselves and all things as we are. Whenever our thinking is true thought, that is God mind thinking the truth. God mind thinking consciously and actively as you and I. This truth heals the sick and the sinning. Recognize the truth we know as being God. If we really know the truth, we are living the truth, because knowing includes living the truth. The wholeness, essence, and nature of deity, divinity a living, ever-conscious whole, all that is. Infinity in unity. Unity of good. Mrs. Eddy considered her masterpiece, written between the hours of 3 and 5 a.m. One all-inclusive unity. Whatever I know humanly is something of this whole. All things have the quality of inseparableness and indivisibility. Every thought form carries every quality with it. to unfold itself out into the expression of all good. Each quality that comprises my mind is infinite and everywhere. Every identity is always at one with its original qualities, its principle, each quality whole. All ideas that make up my consciousness humanly cannot fail. Each idea carries with it everything necessary for its completeness. If God gives me a home, all that is necessary to maintain it goes with it. The great unity of conscious good and its identity man is here, present, now. There is no place where infinite good is not present, the substance and being of us, no one separate from the oneness and wholeness. Nature and character of deity. That which is natural. In its true sense, nature is deity. Deity, or nature, unfolds itself out in all phenomena and all material things. It does not create or produce. Miscellaneous Writings, page 217 and page 331. Deity expresses his divine character when he unfolds himself in man and the universe. Character of deity, eternal perfection. Creation is finished, forever intact. All the good I know humanly is the divine fact present. Not one thing in the universe has ever failed, been lost, or died. Essence of deity. The essence of any particular thing is the essential qualities of that particular thing, which give it character and substance. Wetness is the character of water. Life. Omni-action, to be deity. Immortality, to be deity. Consciousness or intelligence is the character of God or mind, the essential characteristics. Everything that comprises God is consciousness or intelligence. Every atom of himself is conscious. We can never go farther back than consciousness or intelligence, which is the essence of God and man. Unity of Good, page 24. All consciousness is mind. Each individual has, as his essence, substance, or character, the one individual essence, substance, intelligence, or character. Each must feel the contents of his own consciousness. When one sees another, he sees only himself and his own concept of another. One judges everyone and everything according to his illumined or unillumined state of consciousness. Science and Health, page 573. When one sees water, he doesn't see hydrogen and oxygen, the unseen qualities that make up water, but the seen expression, water. There is no place where hydrogen and oxygen ends and water begins, but the one substance, its primary elements seen as its expression, unfolded out in water. Respective seen and felt expressions. No place where unseen qualities end and human begin, but the same divine character. The seen is the unseen. and the unseen is the seen, or deity. Just one. Science and Health, page 512. Mental, both primarily and secondarily. The seen qualities are mental and spiritual, one and the same essence and substance, and have the same character. Bones, flesh, all human good is the same essence as their primary element. Temporary food and clothing we can never be without, always a higher sense of them. Sun does not produce heat, color, etc. The essence and qualities comprise the sun. Just radiate themselves as the sun shines out in their own isness. All good is. Good is finished, in the primary and in the secondary, seen and unseen. We need to recognize all good as the one good. We have an infinity of human good because all good is infinite. Science and Health, 275. Wherever we see the attributes, humanity expresses wisdom. Humanity expresses justice. Humanity expresses mercy. Quote, God or wisdom would appear to me humanly as whatever is considered the highest human sense of what is right and best to do under the present human circumstances. End quote. Mrs. Eddy. If doubtful, wait for wisdom to show you the way. Justice gives us most concern humanly. Study in concordance. Our human consciousness, when correctly understood, will be found as the real and only one, continued out in all the attributes that constitute man. Mind walking, the conscious idea walking, coincident with the divine, one and the same. Knowing that soul, God, the great able to do, going on as man. No idea or experience known humanly ever needs to be corrected. It only needs to be understood. It is in unity with its whole forever. We have been educated in false belief. We have taken walking, breathing, sleeping, etc. out of soul and put them in matter, in illusion. Put them in man as their source. Material, personal man is belief only. Scientific man and his maker are here. Study chapter on recapitulation. Principle and its idea is one. Science and Health, page 465. 1. Principle and its idea is one. 2. This one is God. 3. Omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent being. 4. His reflection is man and the universe. 1. There is no statement in the universe that means so much as this one. Principle and its idea is one. God and his idea of himself, man and the universe, is one. Not man having an idea of God, but God has an idea of himself, and that idea is man and the universe. God, principle, unfolds itself out in all ideas, man and the universe. Just as the principle of music is unfolded out in its tones, mind sees all it is through its reflection or idea of itself. Principle is conscious. He has the awareness of all he himself is, as man and the universe, one, not two. Our awareness of all of ourself is one, not making another one. Our awareness of ourself, working or sitting, does not make another one. It is just the I. The entire Christian Science movement is for the purpose of showing the universe saved in consciousness. 2. Say just God. Think how God is to himself. 1. Conscious, all good. There is nothing beside him or outside of him. The Lord, there is none else beside him. Deuteronomy 4. The Lord, God's idea of himself. God being there as he is to himself. There couldn't be anything wrong. What God is consciously being, that is what I am. There is nothing here but God, all good. 3. Omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent being. Omnipotent, God known to himself, or has an idea of himself as all-knowing being. God is omnipotent, all power. Man is omnipotence. The idea all the power there will ever be. There is power, ability, capacity, and capability in man as idea of all power. Jesus said, "All power is given unto me," because the idea is one with its divine principle. Omniscience, man, all-knowing, all that is going on. Omnipresence, man. 4. His reflection is man and the universe. God and the image and likeness is in God. Christian Science, the only religion that teaches what reflection is. God is responsible for what man is. Image never another one. Man never another than God. We see ourself in a mirror because of our idea of ourself. God, or being, can only know himself by means of man and the universe. Man and the universe, the fact of God, or being. Thus, the compound idea of himself is forever an established being. This reflection always responds and corresponds to what God is to himself. God knows himself by means of his body or manifestation in totality. Section 6. Love. Miscellany, page 117. Quote, "This great truth of God's impersonality and individuality, and of man in his image and likeness, individual but not personal, is the foundation of Christian Science." End quote. No and Yes, page 19. Quote, "God is individual, and man is his individualized idea." End quote. Rudimental Divine Science, page 2. Quote, "Science defines the individuality of God as supreme good, life, truth, love." End quote. Then, man as individualized idea must be one and the same supreme good, life, truth, love. All good, never external to consciousness. Some infinite good has unfolded itself out in consciousness as what is called money, home, friends, but it all makes up the human consciousness. Wherever there is consciousness, there is good. Everything is in consciousness, available all the time. There can never be anything absent from consciousness. Only false belief renders some things obscure. It is educated false belief that seems to obscure anything. Evil belief is false belief. God in our consciousness is abundance. We are the good that mind consciously is. Mind unfolded itself out into good as man. We are the good that God is. The very fact that we exist is the fact that we exist as that good. We must surrender the false beliefs that are obscuring our reality. We must surrender it by degrees as we understand the true. We must turn from the lie to the truth of being. Absolute surrender of the false belief results in the miracle, what appears as the miracle to others. But the miracle was the thing always true and at hand. Insufficiency, a tormentor, never an actual condition, always a false belief. Feeding the 5,000. Disciples believed in insufficiency, and that good was external. Jesus looked up to heaven, looked at the fact. Loaves and fishes were infinite ideas. The worst belief that we can have is that there are things to be conscious of, and we are not conscious of them. Elisha fed 100 with a few barley loaves and some corn. All good and useful things were already available in his consciousness and in everybody's consciousness. We can continuously use the number 2 and never use it up. Where do we look for our good? In consciousness. The kingdom of good always within and constitutes our consciousness. There is never a personality or consciousness of our own. Money is something that God is. We have it all in consciousness. We are it as reflection, because mind makes us that. Function of man. Man is God's idea of himself. It is necessary for God to have an idea of himself. So great is the function and importance of man. He was made for that purpose, or there wouldn't be a God. Our divine purpose of existing is that we can give back to God what he is, or be reflection. Generic man. All men and women as a totality. Individual man is the individualized idea, or is God's individualized idea of himself in the universe. Man. Generic man equals Christ, equals family name, equals all men, the full representation as truth. Same in scientific meaning. All the sons and daughters of God who appear humanly as men and women. Not corporeals, but individual mentalities that make up the full manifestation of man. All the mentalities in the universe is the church. Man in God's image and likeness means infinity. Man, Christ, Son of God. Each one is a mentality, including all the mentalities. The one manifestation made up of all the individual mentalities. A distinct mentality, including all mentality. Son of God, a full representation made up of all other mentalities, and all these mentalities include Jesus' individual mentality, including the universe. Quote, I am the Christ, end quote. Christ is all men and women, or all mentalities taken collectively. A dewdrop reflects the sun. Each one of us reflects the infinite one. All that infinite mind is. Each one of us reflects the one Christ, but not Christ's many, or many suns, where each dewdrop reflects the entire sun. Rose, Christ. All petals stand for generic man or Christ. Each petal stands for individual man. Each petal as a mentality. Christ is truth in totality. Each petal is the rose life itself. At each petal point, that rose life is conscious of itself. Where God is self-conscious, there is all good. All consciousness includes the universe. Each individual mentality includes the one conscious universe, an entirety, a totality. Right at the expression point, there is all of God. Dewdrop could say, I have the entire sun in me. Each individual, a full representation of God or Christ. One universal Christ is the individual Christ in each of us. Each one of us has reality, or all things, within each of us. One kingdom of heaven within each of us. Each has all, and all has each. Twofold character of man. Son of God, Son of man, Jesus consciousness. Message for 1901, page 20. Quote, the Christian scientist is alone with his own being and with the reality of things. End quote. We have to include the universe in our thinking. Many mentalities collectively are still one man. Man or Christ is seen as an infinite number of seen sons and daughters. The seen phenomena does not contradict the one manifestation. It takes all mankind, undivided, to make the one mind. There is but one mind. His manifestation is the one character, Christ. All men and women. Wherever you see men and women, you see this one man. If we see correctly, we see divine mentalities, not corporealities. Am I something besides this one presence? An infinite mentality, including all other mentalities. There is just one, but each one of us has that one. We can't keep it from unfolding, as it is the nature and character of truth to unfold. Individual man is different from an individual, a physical personality. In science, individual man is like God, identical with God. Individuality means infinite. The individuality of God and man is the foundation of Christian Science. Physical personality is finite. Man is actively and consciously the same supreme infinite good that God is. Personality is not the individuality of man. When man learns that he is not personal and material, he will see that he is exempt from sin, disease, and death. The spiritual is all that is present. When we understand this, we will have an enlightened and changed sense of ourselves and others. Man, the divine character of God. Drop the belief of personality. Get it wholly out of mind. Keep before us the right model. We are being crucified by letting in the belief that someone can dominate, suppress, or dictate. Without gaining the consciousness that Jesus had, not one of us can heal a single case. Individuality, man's infinity. The practical sense of individuality. We believe, false belief, that the other fellow can keep us from expressing our individuality. But we are all the one life unfolded out, each one God doing and being. Man's individuality and identity. Actively and consciously showing forth all the qualities of God in a particular expression. Individuality in both God and man would be the same, infinity. All primary qualities make God an entity. So man is the conscious identity of what God is. Inherently all men, sons and daughters of God, are alike. Yet there is a way that each child of God differs from every other child of God, entirely different in expression. One life and substance rolled out in expression. Because God's body is infinity, man is infinite. God never twice alike. Author of a book, thought out characters, his own mind expressed in different expressions. In the book of life, there is just one with his infinite expressions. Each character is an infinite expression of the mind of the author. God wouldn't be perfect or complete without each of us or consciousness. These characters in the book do not think or do things of themselves. It is the author's mind unfolding out there as characters. There is just one thing that can think, one thinking agent, God or mind, one author thinking or doing it, in particular expression of the Father mind. God is all there is to me, the one conscious mind God, as he is here in this particular expression. Every man, woman, and child as being a particular mental, spiritual member of the one body, Christ. All mentalities there are that God is being is church. When we see the characters, mentalities correctly in the book of life, we see God as he is and does and thinks. The children of God are the one being expressed as infinite, individual, divine characters. The substance comes from the same source. Each character is conscious identity of the one author, forever preserved, eternal, immortal. The one being expressing himself. Absolute science by no means destroys one's individuality and identity, but shows the impossibility of their loss. Jesus demonstrated for us, individual man, his divine reality, proved to be immortal. His mission was to show each one of us what divine individuality is, to each of us. We can recognize ourselves as God's presence, a celestial being in God's universe. Inasmuch as God is the author of the universe and all the characters, nothing was written there but eternal joy, peace, and harmony. Humanly speaking, we see personality instead of individuality. Individuality, not personal. A God being. Eventually, truth will destroy all belief, and man will find himself a birthless, deathless being. My individuality. Sin and sickness no part of individuality. Each one of us is some distinct and distinguished mind thinking. God going on here. That each one of us is independent of every other expression of mind, thinking, or God being. Absolutely governed by the God mind. Not only what I am, but what everyone else is, unfolding out. 1 Corinthians 12. From God proceeds all individuality, all being. We are all one infinity, one reality. But we have an individual sense of life. Life is one being. There is a law of God that cannot be set aside. Because we are each individual, we must each express our individual self. Each has a calling. No one else can fill it. You cannot do another's work. Neither can another do the work that you should do. We are all the fulfillment of God's great plan. We are distinct in this plan. There must be infinity. The God of individual being must be allowed self-expression. No individual can do a thing of himself. Let our self be God glorifying himself. Is my self expressed as my individuality? Let him fulfill his divine plan and purpose. One source, one cause, one origin. This one is God. With what rejoicing we should live because he lives. Quote, "Did you but know the sublimity of your hope, the infinite capacity of your being, the grandeur of your outlook, you would let error kill itself. Error comes to you for life, and you give it all the life it has." End quote. Mary Baker Eddy, Christian Science Journal, 1912. Article entitled, "No Evil Power." What destroys error? Disbelief in error destroys error. Science and Health, page 346. Evil belief. Animal magnetism. Mental malpractice. Roman Catholicism. Overcome the belief that there can be so much to be overcome. Animal magnetism. A wrong sense of mind and body makeup of a person. The only action there is the action of the one mind. The one substance and essence is the substance and essence of the one mind and body. Truth is infinite. Besides truth, there is nothing else. If a thing doesn't measure up to truth, it doesn't exist. Handling animal magnetism is disposing of something I believe to be true, just taking care of my false beliefs. If I knew all truth, I would wipe out all beliefs. We get truth as we dispel ignorance. As long as we believe something to be true that isn't true, we need to be freed from the belief that there are many minds and bodies. Science and Health, page 472. Christian Science was revealed to Mrs. Eddy as a scientific way to dissolve belief. If I make an unreality or belief real, then belief becomes a reality to me. We have been educated to believe that to be true, which is not true. The primary belief to be handled is the belief that man is a personality. The personal sense of ourselves and others is unreal. Man is image, wholly unlike a person or mortal. A false belief of personality is robbing us of our birthright. The false sense of personality seems to be a medium for seeing sin, disease, and death. It is necessary to supplant this false sense with the spiritual fact of man. Back of all appearances lies reality, all there actually is. Rid ourselves of this false sense of self and others by replacing with the truth about man or the Christ. Do this renewing by degrees. This supplants and replaces in consciousness, and I gradually find myself here as I always have been, and the accompanying personality and mortality dissolves. Personal sense is like a shadow. Sufficient light or truth always takes up the shadow. I substitute for the belief of a finite mind and body the real body. As we understand that which is not disappears. Man is infinite and lives throughout all space. Man is all-inclusive, consciousness. Science and Health, page 293. When we rid ourselves of mortal mind and body, we do not get rid of something, just a belief of a false representative of man. Personally, I do not try to get rid of even a belief. Mind is my intelligence. Understanding is my real self. Christ or truth is my real self. Evil not from body, but from mortal mind. Body never acts. All evil formed by mortal mind. Science and Health, page 393. We never correct the body. Mortal mind projects these false beliefs, then feels and sees its own self-deception. Always turn from body or matter and recognize that in belief it is mortal mind that is being all these beliefs. Handling animal magnetism is taking all sense of pain or stress away from the body. Take the ailment out of body. Omni-action is all the action there is, and it is normal, and God right there can't be less than harmonious and perfect. Science and Health, page 114. There is a belief that mortal mind strata can be both good and evil. Evil of every kind and nature has neither power nor reality, not in the universe of infinite good. Get rid of the belief that evil is something to be healed or destroyed. Handle mental malpractice in myself, at the point of consciousness. It is within myself that I blot out the belief that evil is in anyone's consciousness. The living conscious truth, living as me, destroys the belief that evil can live as consciousness. Keep man individual and having all that there is, God. Section 7. Quote, Jesus read the minds of his students, and he saw their sins, but did not believe it was their minds, and this did the healing. End quote. Miscellany. Protective work. Quote, if we do not control our possessions through the understanding that they are spiritual, they will control us through the belief that they are material. End quote. Miscellany. All is love, and thoughts of hate and malice are not living because they have no life or motivating power by which to reach me or to reach my destination. Malicious animal magnetism and mental malpractice. The Christian Science religion is the only religion that handles malicious animal magnetism and mental malpractice. It replaces mortal consciousness, the belief that man is mortal and is person, with the truth that man is immortal and impersonal. There is something right here that is man and is not personal. The truth about God and man has entered the consciousness of man. A personality is the reversion of man. All other religions believe a personality or mortal is man, something to be fulfilled and made godlike. A mortal personality is a false image. Jesus proved that the man at hand was the divine man, but the way he appeared to be was the carnal mind's conception of man. Materia medica is trying to save the body. I need the Christ or Savior in myself to see the divine man. Mortal man has no co-partnership with the divine. A mortal personality is illusion, a belief to be dissolved, not to be made into an immortal. Man is already immortal. Our real self or divinity right here, and we shall see it as our true humanhood. Animal magnetism is the family name for all that appears to be evil. Evil in totality. The terms animal magnetism and mental malpractice are out of the dictionary, not coined by Mrs. Eddy. Students seldom use the terms, as they give the impression of something mysterious. Roman Catholicism used 5 or 6 times by Mrs. Eddy. Animal magnetism is discussed on 7 pages in Science and Health. Mental malpractice is given 1 paragraph in Miscellaneous Writings, page 113. There are many terms synonymous with animal magnetism: error, evil, false belief, claim, negation, misconception, misstatement. We need to be specific when talking to young students. Help the patient to see that he is being governed by God instead of some belief. And this is the truth that makes free. Animal magnetism is the supposititious opposite of everything in divine consciousness. We handle it in our own consciousness. It is no more Christianly scientific to see disease than to experience it. When I see another, I see only myself. Must be that here which can see it. Same one, mortal mind. One evil, and that one only in belief. The lie about infinite good is animal magnetism. Never handle animal magnetism personally. It is the science, the truth, the living Christ that handles animal magnetism, not me personally. Understanding that handles the mistake in others. We must make nothing of the mistake. Replacing beliefs with truth, we remove the covering, the veil, for the whole world, thinning the veil of false belief that obscures the reality right there. Find error to be nothing. Then, and only then, do we handle it. Handle the belief or suggestion that you can possibly feel or see an error. What you have seen or felt has never been a condition, a picture. Let go false belief, and healing is instantaneous. False belief does not and cannot continue itself in consciousness when it is once admitted to be a belief only and not a condition of the body. Any seeming imperfect thing is already whole. False belief cannot keep us from knowing things as they really are, our real being, right here. Let us begin to rejoice. We can't see and feel anything but what is in our consciousness. The withered arm of the woman. Her first step was when she resolved not to acknowledge it again. The body never tells us what to do. The great revelation taught by Mrs. Eddy was and is the unreality of life and intelligence in the body. The synonyms of God are not finite, not life in a personality. Sin, disease, and death, a mental, mortal mind image. The body does not have anything to do with it. The whole family of errors, mortal illusion, does not exist as fact, but mortal mind images, misconception. The one infinite good does not contain evil, a broken bone, or anything that is wrong. Not one iota of imperfection, inharmony, or materiality. The mind we now have is God. To believe otherwise is mental malpractice in us, if we see it in ourselves or others. Jesus knew evil was a deceptive appearance or feeling. Mrs. Eddy understood the deceptiveness of evil to the extent that she healed instantly. She knew God. Good is infinite. Bicknell Young said to me in metaphysical college, "You never can heal an incurable case if you believe they can die." Let our divinity become our humanity. To some extent, heal through argument, through affirmation of truth and denial of error. Specific error needs to be offset by specific truth. Keep your mind from combating and resisting evil. Mental malpractice. It is not body, but mind we handle. Persons believe the mind of a personality is the center of a thought force and can harm another. It is all in the object mortal mind calls personality. No one else can harm us. A person's mind does not govern or influence another. There is no transference of mortal thought. Each one responsible for his own beliefs. All the turmoil in the world, a belief. Basically, wrong mental activity. Mortal mind's pictures. Never ignore an error or an evil, but understand why there can't be evil. One omnipotent power. We have erroneous conditions as long as we believe in them. Error can be destroyed because it is mental in mortal mind. Important. Quote, "The Christianly scientific real is the sensuous unreal." End quote. Science and Health, page 353. The greatest wrong is but a supposititious opposite of the highest right. Science and Health, page 368. The carnal mind is a murderer from the beginning. The carnal mind is a lie, no truth in it. It never was intended that we should be overcome of evil. Evil, always impersonal, so it can be overcome in ourselves and others. There is just one thing that thinks. Unless God thinks a hateful thing, no one can think it. Deal with errors as mistakes, but not personal, mine or anyone's. Overcome the belief that there can be any evil to be overcome. There cannot be unjust personalities in my consciousness or any consciousness. Not persons that think. Only mind enacts thinking. Only the carnal mind in us that sees what these many minds seem to be doing. The correction is in ourselves. Science and Health, page 220. Mortal man sees what is in his own consciousness, but sees it inverted. Never correct persons, or have a person correct himself. It is the conscious truth in us that sees erroneous beliefs become nothing. The truth, the supremacy and allness of good. Miscellany, page 364, and the manual, page 84. When I think my brother hates me, I am malpracticing on my brother and myself. It is the Christian religion, the understanding of this religion, that heals, not me personally. Roman Catholicism. Roman Catholics are those who have embraced a personal sense of man and things. They have based their religion on this personal sense of man. Roman Catholics think God is spirit, but man is separated from God and is material and a sinner, and must be saved only through the Roman Catholic Church. Christian Scientists are those who have embraced the spiritual sense of man and things, the oneness of God and man. Man not personal, but individual and whole. Roman Catholicism, the almost universal misconception of man and church. Christian Science, proper functioning of church. Personal sense and Roman Catholicism are synonymous. Opposite modes of thought. Impersonal evil and impersonal truth. Carnal mind and immortal mind. Roman Catholicism should be handled for every case. Satan has bound him. There is nothing but God in a particular expression. Personal sense always impersonal. Carnal mind being personal sense. Inharmonious conditions can never be disposed of by thinking they come from a person. Not originating in a person, but opposite to what is true. Only mental malpractice in our own mind. Personal sense, Roman Catholicism, seems to be present in my consciousness. I can replace the object or person with the individual man that is present. As I understand, Roman Catholicism or personal sense cannot be my consciousness. God is their mind and my mind. All errors are mental images of mortal mind. Take it away from person. It is illusion. not the person in church affairs that enacts error. Holy mortal mind, picturing as their mind and as our mind. But God is the only mind. Truth will order aright what is necessary in human footsteps under any circumstances. Let mind remove properly all that is offensive in our consciousness. Man governed by one mind. Personalities powerless to act. The images of personality come to us for life, and we give it all the life it has. See that I am living and thinking according to God and man. I handle the belief that there is a personal mind. Much Roman Catholicism talk is just superstition and witchcraft. All action is the action of the one infinite mind. Roman Catholicism impossible to have activity or power. All power or action is God or mind. No opposition to right endeavor. Opposition and suffering not from others. Personal sense of self eliminated. Warfare is between personality and individuality. Materia medica. Specifically handle materia medical laws. All the beliefs are formed not by MDs, but by mortal mind. Reversions are not laws. Doctors do not make materia medica. Mortal mind is the culprit. Doctors have the same mind that we have, divine mind. This great body of belief is not personal. Basic beliefs of mortal mind. The heart, liver, and stomach are divine ideas. All should be released from the dominating influence of mortal minds in a Christianly scientific way. Doctors, nurses, and Christian scientists are at no time exempt from the one and only law and influence there is, divine mind. The righteous thought of Christian science in Christian scientists does not sit in judgment even of doctors. Doctors accept mortal mind's classification. But in reality, there is no disease in spirit. We need to be so filled with the righteous thought of Christian science that we can nullify the error at the point of consciousness. Doctors, nurses, patients are not external to ourselves. Our redemption from materia medica is to loose doctors. Bind mortal mind until it ceases to function as materia medica. Mind, the great able to do all things. Roman Catholicism, wholly a personal sense of man and a material sense of church. Personal sense cannot dominate in our consciousness. All malpractice is mental. No power or presence but God. Healing. Science and Health, page 493 and page 253. Sometimes healing in Christian Science almost drops to the level of materia medica. Those who believe in materia medica want medicine, and those who are Christian Scientists want a treatment. The physical body can never be sick independent of mortal mind. The physical body is an unfoldment of mortal mind out in expression. Science and Health, page 208. Wherever there seems to be sickness, there is only thought. Too soon we cannot turn from disease in the body to find disease in the mortal mind and its cure in working for God. Thought must be made better and human life more fruitful for the divine energy to move it onward and upward. Miscellaneous Writings, page 343. It is the mortal, material mind that must be healed. Healing is not accomplished by restoring the body, but by restoring the human mind from belief to understanding. It is truth, the living Christ, that frees the human mind out of itself. Healing is accomplished by perceiving the one infinite body, wholly mental and spiritual, as it is, and its manifestation, man. When treating, I see that I am perfectly well. That is my starting point. God is right there. Mind and body in particular expression. As this is actually consciously my mind, that understanding swallows up the beliefs that mortal mind is present. What is called another is only one's self. Everybody already whole. Those who seem to be in an inharmonious state of mind or body, they believe that they need healing. But they do not need healing, but an understanding that they are already whole. What we really need is not healing, but an awakening to the fact that we are changeless being, having the substance of spirit. We need to awaken to see that we accept this true fact of being as true now. Express it in true thinking and living. Healing is not accomplished by making someone or something whole, but by seeing that they are already whole. Healing is not a scientifically correct word, but for lack of a better one, we have to use it. It is not a good word, so keep your thought right about it. Jesus had a true concept of man, the man he always saw, man in God's own image and likeness. He did not see a diseased man, a mortal man. He saw the reality that lies behind all appearances. In this reality, he saw the omnipresence of God, and this destroyed the belief of disease in the consciousness of the diseased man. A sick man's creations are altogether mental. He is making them with his mind, or mortal mind. Being belief only, they are nothing. Jesus had a right vision. He interpreted everything according to truth. Jesus always spoke to the perfect man when he told him to rise and walk. He was not addressing a lame man. While others around were seeing their own beliefs, they never saw man. He knew that false pictures or beliefs are not anything, but we must perceive them to be nothing. Jesus said, "Nothing shall by any means hurt you." Luke 10. To know that all so-called evil is nothing is what takes the sting out of the serpent. If the world of Christian scientists would but see through the veil of matter, we would see all social, economic, and industrial problems cease. Even death would fade from the consciousness of man. In the 9th chapter of Luke, Jesus gave his disciples power over all evil beliefs. Healing was a primary requirement of his followers. When we have become the divine character actively and consciously, we will do as he did. The Christian Science movement is founded on a foundation of Christian healing. The healing is purely mental and spiritual. Science and Health, Roman 11. The physical healing. Christian Science is spiritual healing, and its outward effect is seen in the physical body and in the transformed character. The human body does not need healing, but the mental must be adjusted to correct the trouble. 2 modes of healing. 1. Spiritual healing, done through love. Love thinketh no evil. Love is not dual. When healing through love, we won't have anything to be healed. 2. Metaphysical healing. Takes the degree of good that I have and lets it take off or counteract a corresponding amount of belief. Through denying error and affirming truth, human thought is spiritualized. Quote, "There is not sufficient spiritual power in a human thought to heal the sick or the sinful. Through the divine energies alone, one must either get out of himself and into God so far that his consciousness is the reflection of the divine, or he must, through argument and the human consciousness of both evil and good, overcome evil." End quote. Miscellaneous Writings, 352. Mrs. Eddy has handled every phase of mortal mind for us in her published works, really just in the 1 chapter, Christian Science Practice. Sometimes an analysis of error is necessary, but the fewer times we rehearse the error, the better. Admitting an error produces the picture going on. The admission of the presence of error is all there is to the problem. Admitting there is something besides God, a time when there was a person or channel to have it. When analyzing error, it is to reject the false claim. In the analysis of error, great faults of character are sometimes revealed. It is just to uncover these things as nothing. Uncover only to disappear should be denied as the pain is denied. Delay in recovery is often due to a fault in the patient that he is holding on to ignorantly or stubbornly, not personally, but ignorantly. But ignorance must be overcome to obtain harmony. All these errors are but false beliefs. Don't let us build them up. They cannot bind us, as they are not qualities of God or mind, but must be seen and proved as nothing. We can't believe it. Do not excuse or make alibis for ourselves and accuse the patient. Make them all errors of mortal mind, never personal. Science and Health, page 377. Remove the leading error or governing fear. The beam must be cast out of the practitioner's eye to help the patient. If the patient fails to recover, see it as an error and not true. There is one of two causes when a patient is not healed quickly. Either some sin lies at the door, or some universal law of belief has not been handled. It is usually the latter, so loose him. Conscious life is the rule of all action or law. The practitioner's attitude is very important. Never personalize. Love is the liberator. Love thinketh no evil. To think or speak of any form of error is metaphysically incorrect. So never believe an error or that mental malpractice is a reality. Evil in any form is never in our own thinking. Mortal mind is the culprit. Mortal mind is not mind at all. So-called wrong thinking is not thinking at all, but right thinking in reversion. The one mind is infinite intelligence. Evil intelligence is a belief that requires our attention to unsee it. Mortal mind is the strong man that has to be bound. Truth constitutes an alertness in us. Power is understanding, the Christ in us, and that disposes of the error. Mortal mind of its own consent must yield to truth. Christian Science Practitioner. A Christian Science practitioner is God's presence. A patient is God's presence. God Himself is here manifested. There are no channels or mediums for God to express Himself. The word channel might imply separation. The practitioner and the patient are God Himself, omnipresent. A practitioner is a veritable angel of light. It is inevitable that we all are practitioners all the time. The practitioner's practice is the quality of his thinking, his consciousness, that is, of what is going on. A practitioner's desire to do good is not enough. There must be the ability, never personal, God's presence. The ability will be according to the Christ within him, not of himself, but God present. The practitioner's understanding appears to be the reality of his patient. The desire to do good often holds him from doing that good. He holds mankind separate from God, something that needs treatment, and that he is the channel to bring about the good. If the practitioner has an understanding rather than desire, he sees finished perfection, creation finished. The source of his thought must consciously be in the divine mind. True thought always rejects the suggestions of erroneous beliefs. It habitually thinks truth. Start the healing work with the patient already whole, as a son of God. Maintain the spiritual nature of every so-called patient. Maintain the spiritual nature of everything that comes in the range of his consciousness. Understand that God is all there is. Detect error as error, not as something. Divine mind is his own mind. Sometimes practitioners look for result, for a sign. Results are already before he begins treatment. When we know results already are, we get the best results. A practitioner does not send his thought out to a patient to change the patient's mind or heal his body, but right here within his own consciousness knows what is over there already. The function of a practitioner is to know the truth. He has divine mind as his mind and includes all. Never blame a patient. All that the patient seems to do is impersonal evil, not the patient. If we see it as the patient, that is mental malpractice. Handle mortal mind, evil, that seems to be the patient's mind, as malpractice, and not having its source in the patient. It is always mortal mind's bland denial of the truth. All there is to the patient is what is, and it is right there, God. Mortal mind has not one iota of power or presence. Patience. A patient has a great part in the recovery. To be obedient, to study, and to hold to the truth given him. Never let mental malpractice hold sway. If the patient really seems to be suffering, don't require much of him or do much talking, but hold to reality. Individual man in unity with divine mind. The understanding of the oneness of being excludes the need of healing. So there is just the divine mind here that sees all and knows all. No practitioner or patient present. One all-inclusive being is all. The patient needs his vision restored from belief to truth. Mrs. Eddy said, "Teach patients not to love to be sick." Class instruction is the greatest event in our human experience. Section 8. Demonstration is concrete evidence. The highest human manifestation is concrete evidence. The highest visible expression of what we can know humanly. Unity of Good, page 11. We demonstrate by degrees. We have our concrete evidence because we understand. We have to spiritualize our thought to know it is all here. We meet Roman Catholicism, never in some other person or some material church, but within our thinking, no place else. God is all there is to each individual. He is expressing himself everywhere. These mortal mind images come to us to give them life, but God is all there is. Any personal sense is Roman Catholicism. Always do what divine mind tells us to do. We are God-governed, an expression in the divine plan. There is in reality no sense of person. It is just a picture, an image, a caricature. We must see it as the divine mind here, right here, sees it. It is up to us. Divine mind is omnipresent. Divine mind is reality. Prodigal son. Husks, that which is unsatisfying, a belief in minds many. Father's house, divine consciousness, the kingdom of heaven within us. He came to himself, found himself, not by going somewhere, but found himself rising in thought, awakening, and finding himself. Having the correct view of himself, living as he really is. Not one of us is a mortal now, or ever has been. We don't change the individual from a mortal to an immortal, but awaken the individual from belief to understanding, and give evidence to the fact that we are now immortal. Our real self is the only self. The false picture is not a self at all. The false picture does not make another self. Turn the lie of false belief to the truth of being, but do not combat the lie as though it was something. A deception is not a thing. It may seem as if the individual were striving for more things, but one is really seeking his real being, a higher sense of life and God. His, the individual's nature, is at one with an I, God the unlimited, infinite mind. Individual man is all-inclusive, as God is all-inclusive. This oneness of mind ensures abundance. It is not from without, but from within, in consciousness. All-inclusive God is our mind. The human concept is symbols or figures of the real. As for me, I shall be satisfied when I awake with thy likeness. Psalm 17. Our divinity is understandable. Sooner or later we shall know man, in us and as us. An individual loves his family, relatives, and friends, and they are himself, oneself. He loves everything that comprises himself, or the one universe, universal. All living things delight in freedom. Every individual is free and unrestricted. He loves immortality. God, or life, holds within himself all life. Man's life is God, living in man as man. Man cannot show forth sickness, sin, and death. Truth has within itself the seed to enlarge and unfold into all good. The universal God is all. Christian Science is the greatest thing that can possibly come to a human being, and it has come to us as the Christ appearing in our consciousness. The appearance of truth is the Christ within us. Our attitude should be one of gratitude and sacred silence towards this truth, or angel presence, God appearing as our true humanhood, a sacred, marvelous thing, that we can talk with God and commune with Him. This understanding, or Christ, is within us. Never talk Christian Science. Talk is just our concept of Christian Science. Live it and demonstrate it. 1908, Mrs. Wilcox lived with Mrs. Eddy. Christian Science was never talked in her family, but she expected them all to live and demonstrate it. Take your books and talk with God. Study recapitulation and Christian Science practice. Daily lesson is as necessary as food. The sections. 1. Absolute statement of truth, the spiritual fact. 2, and sometimes 3, uncovers the mortal mind belief on the subject. The next ones elucidate and handle the subject. And last, culminates and sums up the subject. Unity of Good, Mrs. Eddy's masterpiece. Miscellaneous writings, very important. Divine Mind, God, the infinite and only mind. Mortal mind, that which has no existence. Ignorance, or no mind, educated completely out of itself. It cannot educate itself out of itself. Intelligence does this. Human mind has some enlightenment. It is in states and stages of improved belief. A transitional experience. A state of mind where an element of good is enlarged upon. Be peacemakers in church activities. Everyone there is God, right there, not corporealities. Supply. God or mind does not give to us or to our consciousness material things. But mind does give us spiritual ideas, and these ideas are known to us, as yet, materially or humanly, as what we call human good. Spiritual ideas appear to us as material things because the human mind is not sufficiently spiritualized to understand things as they are. All good things that we have or that we desire are now spiritual realities appearing through the mists of mortal mind. And we are to understand that our highest human concept of these things is reality itself, at hand. And because things are reality at hand, things cannot disappear, or be lost, or be absent, or be diminished. But we recognize things in higher, truer expressions, according to our higher, truer degrees of comprehension and understanding of being. God's gifts as spiritual ideas always meet our present state of thought. For God's goodness is always expressed to us in a way that is tangible and practical to our immediate, everyday state of consciousness. Each one of us is entitled to a legitimate and ample maintenance, because each of us includes within his consciousness the kingdom of God, or the kingdom of good. As we seek, we shall find this kingdom of realities in our own consciousness, the consciousness we have now. and we shall never have any consciousness other than that God-bestowed consciousness that we have now. And these realities will appear on our present plane of comprehension as the highest good we can understand. God is doing for us more than we can ask or think, and He has designated the ways and means by which His bountiful provision appears to us. These ways and means appear to us humanly as human ways and means. When correctly viewed and understood, there are only God's ways and means by which idea or man can express actively and concretely the abundant provision of good. This great fact of being is counterfeited in mortal mind, as the aggressive suggestion that all men are separated from one another and are usurping God's government and control of all mankind. When any expression of divine mind appears in my consciousness, this expression is my consciousness and is the divine mind consciously present. It is not something external or separate from me, and it cannot be governed or controlled by another. All ways and means are divine activity. Man does not originate ways and means of his own, but man, as idea or reflection, consciously repeats the ways and means that are divine activity. Since God is the source or origin of all things, and man reflects God, then all so-called human ways and means are coincident with and are the same as God's ways and means. And all consciousness is coincident with and is the same as the one consciousness, and therefore cannot be interfered with. No matter how fiercely this battle for personal possession of place and power and things is waged, let us remember that the conflict is always within one's self. This mental conflict results also from the belief that there are two separate and distinct sets of good, one spiritual, the other material. When we understand that good as reality, and the human concept of good is the one good, then man finds himself in possession of all good. This mental conflict results also from the equally tenacious belief that man's good is separated and external to himself. But we know that all good is the individual's own consciousness of good, and needs only to be correctly interpreted. We all seem so bound with the belief that we are separated from our abundance of good. Mrs. Eddy says, quote, "Mortals will someday assert their freedom in the name of Almighty God." End quote. Science and Health, page 228. And as we more and more assert our freedom in the name of Almighty God, we shall find our good to be at hand, without labor, toil, and limits. We shall have a higher sense of what we call making a living. We shall be able to demonstrate our supply simply by rising into the spiritual consciousness of being. Paradise is a true state of consciousness, wherein is all good. And if we, like the prodigal son, are to return to perfection of consciousness, we need to arise and come to ourselves and see and prove that we are already that full and complete state of consciousness. In applying this truth to the seeming problems of everyday experience, it is very helpful to apprehend and realize the right interpretations of time and place and personality. Let us consider time. One often feels that next week or next year he will have more good than he has today. It is an easy thing to think that an abundance of good might come in the future, but it is rather hard to understand the fact that good is at hand now. But if I can receive a certain good next week or next year, I have been receiving the same good for 1,000 years. Eternity is here and at hand, the same yesterday and today and forever. What is called a day, a month, a year, is merely the human concept of indivisible eternity. To the material senses, we have time, but we should be losing the sense of time through our higher understanding of eternity. Then, place. A greater abundance of good may seem to depend upon place or location. And while place or location may seem to accompany our human footsteps, it is quite necessary to have the correct interpretation of place, or so-called mortal mind will fool you. Place, like time, is the false belief in separation or division of infinity. But infinity cannot be divided. Whatever is in our location is likewise in another, because there or here or everywhere is infinity. And last, personality. We need to see the nothingness of the belief that our good depends upon personality, and realize that one's demonstration of good does not depend upon anyone but himself. In our early stages of growth, we often feel we must meet certain friends, or individuals who will help us on our way towards prosperity and happiness. And this may seem to be the necessary footsteps at this time. But fundamentally, we are looking in the wrong direction. We are not practicing from the right interpretation. We are looking at the external rather than within. Looking within, one sees always that there is but one being, and he sees that he and every individual is that one being, is held by mind in the right relation, correlation, and interrelation to every other individual. He sees and understands himself as being all men, or the one man Christ. When he sees what he calls others, he sees only himself and all others as one man, governed by the one mind, and each having all. We must have the vision, and we must practice our vision in order to make the demonstration of supply. Impersonal truth is God. When you think of God as truth. Think of that truth as being God or mind. God or truth is the individual mind. God or truth is the individual ego, the individual divine principle, the individual being with a capital B. Your own right mind is God, the only man you will ever be. And that mind and intelligence go on together in unity forever and ever. To know the truth is to be the truth. We declare truth that we may find our real nature and being to be truth itself. The individual's declaration of his perfection is truth. But this declaration in no way refers to the mortal condition in which the individual finds himself. This declaration of truth refers to the individual's real selfhood, of which God is his Father. Instruction that is truth is a divine message to man. Truth is God, or mind, in self-revelation. Truth is God himself. Truth is the I am of every individual. While our method of scientific thinking enables the individual to see what is already perfect, it is not the thought or the thinking that makes us perfect. No, the knowing of truth is truth itself, and is the perfection. To really know the truth is being the truth. One's individual perfection and harmony, health, and supply are not to be created or acquired through any method of thinking. Absolutely not. But through scientific thinking, we find ourselves already perfect. A perfection that embraces infinite good, harmony, health, supply, here and now. Instruction that is truth trains the human mind to look upon things as they should be seen, as they really are. Truth is our life, our mind. Scientific thinking enables us to know that the divine idea, or the thing that is in heaven, is the same thing at hand on earth. That is our perfection, our harmony, health, sight, hearing, and supply that are realities in the unseen or in heaven, is the same harmony, health, sight, hearing, supply that we experience in our earthly existence. These realities that exist in mind or heaven are continued out into expression as our human experiences on earth. If these realities are present in heaven, they do not have to be brought into human existence or brought to earth by means of thinking. Earth is the expression of heaven. Therefore, the good in human existence is the expression of reality. They are one and the same thing. Does not impersonal truth, the I am of each one of us, say, "Do not I fill heaven and earth? Am I not expressed in earth as in heaven? Are not the visible expressions of mind and mind one and the same? What we call our daily experiences all have their source in heaven. Our health, harmony, happiness, and supply ever abide in God, our own mind, or our own being, and are realized and expressed in daily living. There is no evil in all-inclusive reality. For the darkness and the light, the human concept of reality, are both alike to thee. Psalms 139. All human good, and the good that is reality, one and the same good. Our human concept of good approximates the one good in proportion to our comprehension of the spiritual fact that our human good is the one good. Quote, enable us to know, as in heaven, so on earth. End quote. Science and Health, page 17. Scientific thinking, or knowing the truth, is the experience itself, which to our comprehension may appear as the desired wholeness, desired employment. Individual man being God's or mind's idea of himself is as complete, as active, and as employed as is God, his mind. Let us then individually think and act as if we were what we are. Animal magnetism. No matter what the inharmonious condition, be it great or small, terrifying or merely disturbing, the cause behind it is but our belief in it, or animal magnetism. We cannot be held in bondage when once we understand that all types and stages of evil, no matter what the experience, is only animal magnetism, or false belief. We cannot be held in bondage when we understand the impossibility and nothingness of false belief. We do not have to give up a disease or an inharmonious experience, but we must give up the belief that there can be a disease or an inharmonious experience. As soon as a lie is seen to be a lie, it has no power or existence. No matter how great the Goliath may seem to be, the recognition of the allness of God and the nothingness of any power apart from Him is all that is needed to vanquish false belief or animal magnetism. Animal magnetism impersonal. Animal magnetism cannot operate directly or of itself. It requires support, and it exists and continues by means of someone believing in it. Animal magnetism must always find a channel or someone to believe in it in order that it may exist. But the person believing in error or animal magnetism is never the originator of error. Error originates in mortal mind. Therefore, all error is impersonal. One must handle the claim that error is personal, thereby freeing the person through which the claim seems to be acting. A student of Christian Science endeavors to attain and maintain that spiritual altitude of thought that the Master had when he said, quote, "For the prince of this world cometh, and hath nothing in me." End quote. John 14. Infinite truth admits no opposite or evil, and we should mentally oppose evil with truth, promptly and persistently, whenever it presents itself for acceptance. When Christian Science was revealed to Mrs. Eddy, She saw that evil was a state of mental blindness, a mesmerism produced by mortal mind thinking. She saw that this mental blindness was a serious thing because it made man incapable of discriminating properly as to what was real and what was unreal. And it blinded man from seeing the necessity of recourse to the divine mind in order to bring about the destruction of that which deceives man into clinging to the finite and human sense of himself because he believes that sense of existence to be real. The teachings of Christian Science awaken thought to the true nature of the infinite, and this enables us to make the effort to see as nothing everything that claims existence apart from God, or that is unlike truth and good. Evil and its seeming operation affect only those who are ignorant of its unreality. It is because man is ignorant of the fact that evil is belief only that it affects him. He never can appreciate enough the fact that Mrs. Eddy has shown us and proved to us that evil is false belief only. When the world comes to appreciate the wonderful thing that Mrs. Eddy has done in uncovering all evil as animal magnetism or false belief, there will be a great increase in spiritual growth for all mankind. Man and body. There is one thing of which we are conscious that is all important to us, and we should always hold it in consciousness in its true depict. This all-important thing is man, or body, and each one of us is man or body. The terms man or body are synonymous terms. Their relation to God or mind is the same, in that they express mind. Mind and man is one being. Man or body is the evidence that there is a God. Man or body show forth or exhibit God. There is one infinite body, and that body is man, or is the body you are now, no matter what false beliefs you hold in consciousness about it. There is one spiritual body, and that body is you. It is scientific to declare that man exists at the standpoint of body. Man is body. Pervading this very place where the false belief of man or body seems to be, in this very place, but not limited to it, is the only man or body in existence. Mind is expressed as man or body fills this space. If it were not true, there could be no false beliefs about them. It is right to declare that I, meaning man or body right here, am spiritual. If when you say this man or body, you mean the only man or body here, and do not have in mind that which is false belief, myth, holy illusion, nothing. There is one infinite mind, and there is but one man or body, and every individual is this one man or body. Because man or body is purely mental and spiritual, it is of utmost importance to declare the truth about man or body in order to become familiar with the real facts about man or body. It is almost a universal misconception that man is entirely separated from God, with a private body of his own, which seems to be the source or medium of all his troubles. I urge you to declare frequently the truth concerning body, in order that the spiritual idea of body may silence and displace the material concept or false belief about body. Do not be afraid to declare the truth concerning your body. All the things in the embodiment of mind, or the one body, are eternal, complete and perpetually active as ideas. And the law of mind that governs his embodiment is the law of perpetual harmonious action. Embodiment or body will always be, and no idea in this body can fail, or be sick, or change, or disintegrate, or be dead. Everything that constitutes body, as vigor, vitality, strength, power, perfect impulsion, symmetry, beauty, is a conscious mode of existence. And if we are conscious of body as it really is, then there is no body that is material or finite, or sick, or that can be sick. The true consciousness of body as spiritual and immortal enables us to put out the false belief that body is the private body of a mortal man or woman. A case of healing. Recently, I was told of an interesting case of healing. There was a woman who had had much help in Christian Science and had been healed of many things. But a belief of a diseased nose did not yield. She said to her practitioner, "I cannot understand why my nose is not healed. I certainly know the truth about it." The practitioner said, "Where is God truth?" The woman replied, "God or truth is everywhere." Then the practitioner asked her, "Where is everywhere?" The woman replied, "Everywhere is right here." Then the practitioner said, "Well, if God or truth is all and is right here, then your nose is God right here." To this the woman replied, "Oh no, my nose is material." The practitioner said, "Then you do not believe the statements you have just made. You said that God or truth is all and is filling this place, but you believe that a material body is filling this place. Instead of seeing the claim as false belief, you see it as a material body with a diseased nose. Surely that is a false mode of consciousness." The woman saw that she had been keeping God or truth in the abstract. She had been keeping God or truth as something separate and apart from body. She saw that she had not believed that her statements of God or truth were herself, right there in that place. She said that she had not known God or truth was all and filling that place. She saw that body or nose, being what God was right there, needed no healing. God and body were one being. When she knew the truth about God and body, this truth dispelled her erroneous belief about body and nose. The woman was quickly healed. I want to speak of a case of instantaneous healing, which illustrates the point of letting go of false belief. False belief does not and cannot continue itself in consciousness when it is once admitted to be belief only, and not a condition of the body. A woman had a withered, helpless arm, caused by accident. She had exhausted the resources of all local practitioners, and whenever a lecturer came to the city, she talked with them and had some treatments, but to no avail. Her husband traveled, and she went with him, and whenever they came to a large city, she immediately hunted up a practitioner, went to him, and rehearsed all about this arm, and had some help, but to no avail. Finally, they arrived in New York City, and as soon as they were settled in their hotel, she got out her journal, because above everything else, she wanted that arm healed. She found a name and made an appointment. But as she sat there, she said to herself, "I will not tell about this arm another time. I'm tired of repeating that over and over, and it's only belief anyway," the saying of which meant little to her. She said to the practitioner, "You know God heals, don't you? You know that He can heal anything." The practitioner answered her, "Why, yes. God heals by revealing to us that any seeming imperfect thing is already whole. And false belief can't keep us from knowing things as they are, perfect and whole." He gave the woman a treatment and showed her out of the office. When once outside, she found her arm restored in size and activity, as perfect as her other arm. She had let go her false belief, and her first step in that direction was taken when she resolved not to acknowledge it again. Any wrong belief can be given up without hindrance from the body. Science and Health, page 253. So-called material body. So-called material mind and body is but an erroneous concept of the one infinite mind and body. And this so-called mortal mind and body is a myth, an illusion. The so-called material body is not something that fills space, but is a belief about the only body that is filling space. There is only one infinite body, and the belief about this body isn't another kind of body, but is belief only. Belief is not something, but it is a belief about something. The only place we meet belief is in the realm of mortal thought. If I believe 2 times 2 equals 5, I must meet this belief in mortal thought. The belief is never external to thought. Belief does not and cannot continue itself apart from mortal thought. Let us consider indigestion. Indigestion is the identity of belief. That is, indigestion and belief are one and the same. Then I handle or meet indigestion as belief, and must meet it in the realm of mortal thought, because belief is never external to or disconnected from thought. Body has nothing to do with indigestion, except as it is the visible expression of what is in mortal thought. All belief is without a believer. God, or mind, is infinite truth, and mind cannot be the opposite of truth and be belief. mind being the reflection of truth, cannot include belief. There is in reality no such mode of consciousness as belief. Since the material body is belief in mortal thought only, the thing to do is to improve our belief about the body. And this is done by gaining a higher understanding of true body. A false sense of body must be replaced with a true sense of body. As we progress in the understanding of Christian Science, our progress does not destroy a material body. No, it just dispels the belief that the body we now have is mortal and material and organic and structural. As we clear away our beliefs, there appears to our sight and sense our ever-present glorious body, the body that was seen on the Mount of Transfiguration. As we progress in Christian Science, each scientific step should show forth concretely better bodily conditions, and this is accomplished not by destroying what does not fill space, but by bringing to light in consciousness our ever-present spiritual body. We should see the great importance of never mentally destroying the concrete, progressive unfoldment of what seems to be our body or any part of our body, but we should hold in consciousness higher concrete expressions of body as it really is, until we come into our perfect humanhood. A Christian Science healing indicates an improved belief about body. When we declare facts of truth about God, we should realize that these facts of truth about God is man, is body. God or mind is man. God or mind is body. Mrs. Eddy says, Science and Health, pages 167, 111, and 248, quote, "The scientific government of the body must be attained through the divine mind. Mind governs the body, not partially, but wholly. Immortal mind feeds the body with supernal freshness and fairness, supplying it with beautiful images of thought." End quote. The body is always the visible expression of the mind. Whatever images of thought are held within our mind, these images are visibly seen in the body, which is the expression of the mind. Whenever our body shows us a certain image of inharmony in our thought, then we should immediately replace this false image in thought with the counterfact image, or the truth. This process restores health and harmony to our mind, which in turn is visibly manifested in our body. It always seems to us that it is the body that ages and grows old, independent of the mind. But man's body or embodiment is but the garment of his thought. The body always visibly manifests the mind from which it is evolved. Mrs. Eddy was once asked, "Is it possible to change the aged form to one of youth, beauty, and immortality without the change called death?" She replied, quote, "In proportion as the law of truth is understood and accepted, It obtains in the personality as well as the character. The deformities as well as the infirmities, said to be the inevitable results of age, under the opposite mental impressions, disappear." End quote. You change the physical manifestation in proportion to your changed thought of the effect of accumulative years. Expecting an increase of usefulness and vigor from advancing years, with as much faith as you look for decrepitude and ugliness, a favorable result would be sure to follow. The added wisdom of age and experience is strength, not weakness. And we should understand this, expect it, and know it is so. Then it would appear.